thank you all for joining us today on our first of 2 webinars talking about our shared apprenticeship pilot. Something that myself, Kath and Nathan are very passionate about, getting this pilot launched and giving opportunities to people where apprenticeships and within the construction industry has been a challenge due to the nature of contracts and things like that. So really looking forward to telling you about the offer and how people can get involved moving forward. To have the best experience, majority of you will be on this already, but if you switch to speaker view, I'm told at the top, you will be able to see the presentation better, and either people will be either down the side or across the top, depending on how your machine's set up. We will be enabling the Q&A function, so if you do have questions, please pop them in the chat. We will be going through the presentation first, and then at the end of the session, taking questions, and we'll go through that. The presentation not expected to last a full hour, but again, depending on questions and depending on things like that, we wanted to just offer that as the full length of time. So I'm Gavin, I work at the growth company, I'm commercial director there, and has been working with Kath from CISC, who's joining me to talk around from their point of view, and Nathan from Athena, again, to bring this whole project to life. So I'm going to hand over to Kath, who's going to introduce the scheme and how we've got to where we've got to.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, so this is just basically setting the scene of where we are now and where we've come from. We've got to this point, CISC are a principal contractor. We have targets around apprenticeships. We want to offer apprenticeships. We know that particularly within Greater Manchester, there's an appetite for learning and development of young people, but it's really hard to try and fit that apprenticeship within your programme of works. Sometimes it feels like you're putting a square peg in a round hole, trying to create apprenticeships that are not necessarily there. We feel that young people then come in, they don't have the best experience. We know that we're facing this ageing workforce in construction. Anybody in the sector is aware of that. We know that we can attract people to apprenticeships as long as it's the right scheme and it fits within that person's goal of training and development within the sector. We're really struggling for these apprenticeships to provide that robust learning experience alongside the classroom base to make sure they're employable at the end. The projects, for example, if somebody, a brickwork apprenticeship, you want them for 12 to 18 months, your brickwork on a project might be a 20-week package, they might be there for 5 months. You're just not going to be able to give that young person the development that they need. And as a contractor, you're always pushing back, trying to encourage people to bend the rules, to try and, move them around different projects. How are we going to facilitate their learning when we've done? And it just gets really difficult. So we are partnered with the growth company for all their recruitment. That's where we take our furthest from the workforce from there back to work programmes. So it just seemed the right decision to get Gavin involved and ask if we can collaborate on this. And then Nathan's been brought into the fold in terms of the employer perspective, and you'll see that as we move forward. Next slide, please, Lynette. So the benefits of this model, the key thing is reducing that risk. It's not that one employer that's going to be tied to facilitating the whole experience of the apprenticeship. By coming on board as a sponsor, you pay for your sponsor period, which we'll go through in the programme, but you're paying just for your hosting period. And during that period, you are to provide that young person with a robust experience of placement on your site, on a trade, how a site works, and it all fits within the apprenticeship standard. It's cost effective. We've got a lot of support around this model. It's not just ringing on a Friday and saying you've got Billy coming on Monday and he turns up. There's a lot of support, pastoral activity around building that model, and the face-to-face workshops, obviously, to get that off-the-job training. We've got HR through Athena and then we've got online activities. We want to create a real cohort, want them to feel that they are a group going through this collectively and can draw on each other's experience. That's how we feel that they'll be employable at the end. Next slide, Lynette. Over to you, Gavin.
So in terms of the model, and I think the model's identified at the bottom there in terms of how we would go through the process. As Kath said, we do a lot of the recruitment work for her team through different programs. What we wanted to make sure is that the people that were coming onto this program were site ready and had all the skills and necessary. We'd been through a vigorous screening process, so I am attending a session where we've already started to gather the candidates. So Elle and the recruitment team and some of our wider delivery team, which I'll come on to in terms of the programme, have already started screening candidates. So on Monday, I'm going to present to 25 potential candidates that are going to go through, in fact, me and Nathan are going to do that, that are going to start and hear about this programme. So similar to you are now, but obviously from their perspective in terms of what is their benefit of going on to this programme. And so from our perspective, we see this very much as it's great for the individual because they're going to have a 15-20 month programme across a range of placements. So real varied role with an apprenticeship that overlays that, but equally from a employer perspective, you have a trained individual that's coming on site ready, and you're paying for them for a placement. You're giving them that opportunity. The risk is minimal because you're taking them for a 16-week placement, and I'll come on to that onto the next slide. So this is the model that we're going through with them across that bottom there. We're recruiting them. They're then joining. They're coming to hear about the programme on Monday, but again, then they will begin. Those that want to progress and those that we feel this is the right opportunity for them, they will go through this pre-apprenticeship training, which is going to include that introduction to construction certificate, the CSCS card, which is really important, and then some other elements that make sure that they're site ready, they've got everything that they want. At the end of that programme, we will then, and there's opportunities for employers to be involved in this, to come and see some of these candidates, but we're going to employ them and they will be employed by Athena. And I think that's one of the key benefits to this opportunity is you are not directly employing them, and Nathan will come on to how this works and costs, etc., towards the end of the programme, but they're employed by Athena. The key part for us is that 4-month placement, where that's what we're looking for throughout this programme, is suppliers, contractors, employers to offer these placements for that 4-month placement, ideally 1-2 across the whole delivery model, and then overlaying all of that is the apprenticeship delivery. So the growth company will be delivering a project property maintenance operative apprenticeship that is overlaid where they will gain different skills. So they might be doing, Kath hates me saying this, but might be doing tiling for a period of time. Sorry, my camera's gone off. They might be doing tiling for a period of time, and then they go to a different placement and they're doing carpentry and joinery, or whatever they may be. We're working with, and we will, as the growth company, will fill in the gaps to make sure that they have all of the learning experience by the time they get onto that. Now, to bring that to life, Lynette, if you could flick a slide, this is what the model is going to look like. Now, apologies if I'm thinking that's pretty small on the screen in terms of some of the wording, but we will share this presentation after. That this is how we've built the model to ensure a multitude of things. One is that experience for the candidate. So they're going to experience, as we go from left to right, there's the pre-employment training that I've just discussed and what they're going to expect and gain from that. Then week one is the onboarding. So this is where we'd be interviewing candidates and making sure they're the right ones, and then they join and onboard with Athena and enroll onto the apprenticeship with the growth company. And then the placements at the bottom left, you can see the placement dates. This is where we're looking for your support. These are the key bits that we want to cover. So we need, for the pilot, we're looking at 36 placements total, with 12 in placement 1, 12 in placement 2, and 12 in placement 3, whereby you would take on an individual for this period and they would work with you for them 16 weeks. Key things for us is throughout that period and throughout that placement, there would be a monthly face-to-face workshop. And again, Kath mentioned the additional support, how we will make sure that these candidates, Nathan will come on to how we manage the candidates and make sure they're attending work and covering that from that perspective. But a 16-week placement with you guys to sort of to take that, learn the trade, and then overlaying that, we have, as you can see throughout the model, learning blocks. Do we call them learning blocks? Yes, a block learning period. So ranging from 2 weeks to 1 week, where we will have them on site with us at the growth company, and we will be delivering different workshops, both soft skills and practical skills throughout the program. And that model again is really allowing them to sort of develop as they're going through the program, get the support not just from the growth company in terms of the delivery of the program, but again across the bottom there, that's all the way across, which is really key, is that pastoral support, HR issues, or payment from Athena, is that's across from the beginning of the program right the way through to the end. But I think the key thing to sort of ascertain from this slide is we're only looking for you guys to take a placement, or ideally a placement 1, a placement 2, a placement 3, as hopefully you start to see the quality of the candidates that come through. But the model is supportive from Athena's point of view, growth company point of view, obviously the attraction and support from you guys in terms of placements, but a robust, rounded model that gives them opportunities to the young individuals that we're putting through the program. Nathan, Kath, anything to add on the model itself before I hand over to before I hand to Nathan? No. Okay, next slide, Lynette, please.
Yeah, morning everyone. My name's Nathan Jack. I'm the head of partnership for Manchester Athena. For people who are unaware of Athena and what we do, we're a partnership of Greater Manchester social housing providers that looks to remove barriers to employment for our members, customers, and the people within those communities. So the a part of this reason for getting this offer is, as has already been spoken about by Gavin and Kath, is the fact that kind of like it's those shorter term contracts in the construction industry that a contractor might not be able to take advantage of in terms of employing an apprentice. So kind of like working in partnership is the best way that I can see us actually maximising the opportunities for people, and also creating that workforce that we know is going to be needed as the pipeline of work continues to grow. So how it will work from an Athena perspective is that we will employ the apprentice, and in effect we'll act a bit like a recruitment agency. So we'll employ the apprentice, we'll provide them with the terms and conditions and all the HR support, and we will then kind of like look to host them with contractors for a minimum of 4 months. And as part of that process, we will require the individual apprentice to complete a timesheet, and that gets authorised by the site manager, line manager, who is actually from that contractor involved. That's just to ensure that people are there on site and doing the work that they should be doing. We're trying to make that as simple as possible by doing that through kind of like electronic methods, so using an app. And also the app does a bit of a GPS lock, so we know exactly kind of like if the apprentice tells us that they're on site in North Manchester, that they are on site in North Manchester. And we will look to facilitate all of that through kind of like our back office function. In terms of payments, Athena will invoice the host organisations for their hours plus a weekly management fee, which I'll come on to the costs involved in that in a second. The hours that the apprentice works will be billed at the government living wage. We are looking as best we can to move towards a real living wage, but we understand that there are some challenges there for some smaller contractors involved in the process with that. So the government living wage for age is where we're kicking things off from. In terms of that invoicing process, we will invoice contractors up front. So I'd love to sit here and say I'd love to bill you for all 4 months up front, but I also understand that that might not always be possible. But a minimum of a month up front is the requirement, and then that will continue for the duration of the apprentice being hosted with you as an organisation. And that facilitates kind of like us paying the wages to the apprentice as well as running our back office functionality. We'll provide the wraparound support for those apprentices. So as well as the meeting with the growth company and the tutors and the assessors at the growth company, they will also have support from ourselves at Athena, and just addressing some of those more challenging situations where an apprentice is unable to make it to site because of they've got a commitment and they've just been unaware because they've never had a job before about how to manage that particular commitment and how to inform kind of like colleagues about kind of like those challenges that they're coming up against. So we'll manage all of that as well. And as part of the final exit of the apprentices, we'll work in collaboration with the growth company again at securing that apprentice a full-time position. It might be with an Athena partner, i.e. a social housing provider. That could be with a contractor. It could even be with a contractor when you're on site and you say to us, oh, I really like this person, we want to keep them. We'd need to have a conversation at that point because obviously there's implications there from a completion of the apprenticeship perspective and making sure that the job role is suitable and things, but we can have that conversation if you come across an individual that you really want to keep hold of. Next slide, please, Lynette. Yeah, and this is where kind of like people say to me, oh yeah, you've got the bad job of conveying the costs. So this is just an example based upon a 35-hour week of the costs to contractors and how that's broken down. So the costs are based upon the national insurance contributions and everything else that we as the employer would be expected to cover, plus our weekly management fee. The reason why it's divided by 48 weeks and not 52 is because in January there is a learning block. So and that will be 4 weeks where the apprentice actually is on site at the growth company undertaking the skills and learning the skills that they need to complete their apprenticeship. We've tried to put it in January after feedback was suggesting to us that January in terms of being on site in the construction sector is a bit of a challenge. So we're basically just saying that instead of having one host organisation that pays for those training blocks, is that we split it across the all the hosts that are going to be involved in this. So again, welcome kind of like conversations on the costs involved and can provide further details and breakdown of those costs if colleagues need to see those. Next slide, please. I think that might be, yeah. Going back to you, or do you want me to go through this?
No, probably the most important slide for us is the fact that what are we asking for from today? I think questions is one, and actually is the further information you need to support this. But ideally, what we're looking for, as I said, we've got 25 excellent candidates starting or coming to hear about the programme next week. The first placement is 6th of October, but between now and that date, we will be training them, upskilling them, sifting them, if I'm honest. So what we won't be doing is sort of people are late consistently, they won't be taken on. We're very clear on what the opportunity is, what a great opportunity is. I must say, I think we're really passionate that actually this candidate's going to have different experiences with different placements, but overall a supported one, and with the aim that these are going to find full-time work at the end of this in a role, either with one of the pledges or one of the placements, or through different channels where the growth company can support and find, and Nathan and Sis can do the same. I think we're looking for the pledges for an October one, the February dates, really just how we manage this. So please ask questions. I've just looked in the Q&A hoping for questions. No questions, so we've either been really thorough, which is hopeful, or people are waiting till I stop yapping to ask questions. Equally, more than happy to have follow-up questions if there's specific questions that you don't want to ask in the Q&A. Following today's session, we will be sharing the presentation, and what I will do is I will add to the presentation our contact details for myself, Kath and Nathan. So depending on the nature of the question, either come back to us all and we can pick it up, or we can pick up standalone questions depending on the thing. But I think we're looking to gain these pledges to make sure we've got, for these excellent individuals that are coming through, the first placement. Obviously October the 6th is the key date for us. We want to make sure we have 6 quality placements ready, and it's your guys' support and offering these opportunities that will make that a possibility. So Kath, Nathan, any other questions or any other comments from you?
I think mine would just be, if anybody wants any further information about why we've picked the property maintenance, instead of a traditional carpentry and joinery or brickwork programme, we think that the PMO allows a lot of flexibility with those knowledge, skills and behaviours that you can gain from various roles on site, whether it's labouring, banksman, tiling, flooring, brickwork. It is very much about that behaviour of being on a site. So if there's people worried how they're going to fit that into the programme of works, this is a site-based placement. Any experience they can draw from that can link into those knowledge, skills and behaviours, can't we? And we've got those block weeks in for the actual things, the evidence that they might be missing. But I think it's that awareness of just having them on site will mean so much of that knowledge, skills and behaviours that they'll need, because that's what they're missing with the learning. So yeah, that's all from me.
Nathan, anything from you?
No, I'd just like to say that in terms of something that I suppose we didn't kind of like cover, but it's part of what this is about, is helping contractors meet their social value commitments. I mean, with the new Procurement Act that has come in earlier this year, it's going to be a growing demand to demonstrate that social value commitments. And most tier 1 contractors are really good at doing that, and they can deliver the apprenticeships. But the supply chain, the smaller contractors, don't always have the opportunity to do that, and especially if they want to grow as an organisation and demonstrating that they can deliver on those social value commitments. So in essence, what I'm saying is that this can help with that. You can help find those and host a placement for those 4 months. It will help demonstrate that you are meeting your social value commitments as part of the contracts that you have. Yeah,
I think that's a good point. And I think whilst Manchester City Council aren't on the webinar today, they did come to the first face-to-face session in Lee House in Manchester. So they have been behind that and sort of discussed this exactly the same as Nathan just said. So yes, they've they've been involved up to this date in terms of the stats and social impact, etc. From that perspective. Last chance on questions. I've opened the Q&A. No questions, which, like I said, hopefully we've covered everything. What we wanted to do before we delivered the presentation is obviously make sure that we've covered what we feel is everything necessary for you to make an informed decision. Equally, we hope that it's so. I can see a question. Beth, can I unmute Steph or not? I don't know. Is Steph there? Lynette, Steph, there's a question.
I've done it. So if Beth just tries to unmute now, she should be able to speak.
Yes, I'm in, I think.
Ah, there we
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Really simple questions. One, is it Manchester residents only in terms of the young people or the apprentices coming through? Or is it Greater Manchester? Sorry, I don't know whether that was mentioned or not.
Nathan,
Yeah, thanks, Kath. Hi, Beth. So yeah, it is for this particular occasion. They are Manchester residents.
Okay.
Moving forwards, it is something that we want to open up to all Greater Manchester residents and have that opportunity. And I think because of obviously CIS being involved and their involvement with this in North Manchester and all the other work that's going on in the actual city centre, we was thinking it'd just make it a bit easier in terms of finding the host placements and also for the apprentices themselves. We want to get, this is the first time we're doing it. We want to get off to a really good start. We want to demonstrate that it can work. But moving forwards, yes, Greater Manchester residents will be able to take up opportunities. And I would like us to be in a position where we're doing this in all the 10 local authorities. Trafford Council, again, they came along to the first session we had. They're really interested in using it to help with their developments that they're going on in their town and wider local authority area. So this first one, Manchester residents, moving forwards, all of Greater Manchester residents.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
I think that's a good point. Thanks, Nathan. I think absolutely we don't just see this as the pilot. Obviously, what we're working hard to make sure that we can give the placements initially for the Manchester residents that we've been working through, but absolutely we would look to run this wider field with and there's other potential apprenticeships. We had some initial discussions around actually could we offer administration support where people went in for 4 months and actually worked on administration. So the opportunities and possibilities are wide. What we wanted to do was test the concept, run the pilot and get the placements for this one, but then look at, okay, what are suppliers wanting, what do we add next, and how does that evolve? So it will be an ever-changing thing, but yes, Beth, for sure it'll be wider than Central Manchester. Yes.
Perfect. The reason it's just useful to know, because obviously working with a company who's connected to so many different companies, they do have not restrictions, but they have requirements as part of their social value plans in terms of who they're engaging with. But yeah, I think there was a second point I've forgotten already. But the other thing I was going to ask is just to clarify what Kath picked up on in terms of the property maintenance apprenticeship. In terms of it sounds like it's covered, but in terms of skills and evidence, when the assessor comes out, if it was on a construction site, is that relevant? Does that match okay? Because I would hate to think that a young person would be on a construction site and not necessarily doing the skills and getting the evidence that they need.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it was one that, in terms of what programme we offered, we spent a lot of time on. We had some of our specialist tutors at Growth Company out with Kath and Sisk on site, looking at what are they covering and almost looking at the plan of work for the next X amount of months, year, 18 months, etc. equally, that's where then placement windows are, and where they're with us, we will be able to do things, and whilst they're on site for a placement, them learning windows, they'll come into us and we'll be able to do activities. So if they need to do some plastering, for example, as part of the apprenticeship, we have a plastering booth where we can teach them elements, so they'll get a full rounded experience. And then obviously what the tutors will be doing, because what we don't know, and this is, I suppose, the benefit for the individual, but the bit that ourselves and Athena will be working through in terms of the individual program that they're going to go through, is every learner might have a slightly different experience in terms of what they do when they do it. But as long as the tutors will be recognising what their gap is at month 6, what their gap is at month 12, etc., and we will work that in to make sure that by the end of the programme, they've not got another year and a half of delivery to do, because actually we'll be embedding that into the workshops and the delivery and the next placements, etc. So there'll be some juggling from us and Athena to make sure that the placements are aligned, but equally it'll give the rounded programme.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Beth.
A question from Kate as well, Gavin.
Hi, great initiative, very exciting. A question for Kath. Hello, by the way, Kath and Nathan. I just wanted to find out from your side how it would work from a contractor point of view, and how you see it working with your subbies, whether it's kind of your ownership, whether you're pushing it down to them, just how you see it working, really.
So the placement that we're going to sponsor for the first one is going to be with our logistics manager on site, and that's the first one we want to roll out sort of as a guinea pig. So we'll be carrying it as CISC. It won't be rolled out through supply chain. We will have our supply chain on board sponsoring their own placements, but we see that first one as a bit of a trial. So they'll be doing logistics, they'll be supporting people that are doing labouring tasks, they'll be supporting bricklayers, they'll be doing a little bit of everything in that first one to see how we facilitate that. But equally, as a supply chain, if your Macquarie's brickwork and you take somebody on, they'll be doing brickwork for that 16 weeks. It'll make it easier for Nathan's team in terms of that pastoral, if there's more than one person on one site, because they'll be coming doing those visits. And again, for the tutor who's coming doing evidence gathering, easier if they're on one site. Like Nathan said, we're trying to keep it quite accessible in terms of that city centre for all of those reasons, for the apprentice, for the tutors, and for the apprenticeship team at Athena to manage, because we don't want somebody having to commute an hour and 40 minutes outside of Manchester for a placement. That causes knock-on effects within the model then, and when we've got the learning weeks, it's a long way for them to travel to the growth company, to that workshop setting. So
okay,
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
And I think that's important. I think obviously there is the option for a tier one to provide a tier one supplier to sort of get involved and sort of say, look, and put, but equally taking an individual on, or support, offering this out to their wider supply chain is exactly what we're looking for. It's ultimately the placements and the opportunity that we're after. So how much involvement can be little, or again roll out a scheme specifically, but it's the pilot is for us to look at what best fits and how this would, and we will be making changes to it as we go through it to give the best experience. So feedback, we've already talked about, I think CISC have QR codes all over site where they're scanning, and we're going to capture feedback via that route way through, both for the delivery of the programme and through Athena in terms of the management of. So it will be evolving, but it's the pledges we're after. I mentioned pledges. I think I have. Any other questions?
I think we have a few in the Q&A box, Gav. If you have a,
I can't see any in the Q. I can't see any in the Q. My Q&A box is blank.
Okay, let me. What I will do, I will try and publish them.
Yeah.
And then see if you can see them. If not, I can always read them out.
I just raised a question about the property maintenance because I don't know that apprenticeship. I suppose Beth covered it a little bit, but it's not something that I've come across before. So I'd appreciate just if you've got a one pager on actually what it would normally cover and that sort of thing. It'd be useful.
Yeah. So what I could share afterwards is and there's a happy medium of going too much detail into a program and actually trying to talk about the overall placement. But what we can do is, along with the presentation that I've just shared, I'll share with you the property maintenance overview and access to exactly what they're covering. It is a wide range of activities, and like I said, there's they'll become a sort of they'll have a wide range of skills by the end of the program, which is why we've selected it for this, because we don't know at the beginning what placements they're going to have, but it will give them that skill set of a wide range of trades that they might think at the end of this, actually I love X and I'm going to go on to do that as an overall trade, but they'll have that leveling of different trades throughout it. But after this, I'll share that as part of the send out pack that we do.
There's a question as well from Becky Sutherland. Hi, Becky. The sites themselves don't have to be geographically inside the city centre, as long as they are accessible by means of public transport. And, you know, like Nathan said, it'll be on individual discussions but they need to be accessed by public transport, because we are assuming that these people are, you know, the furthest from the workforce. Like Nathan said about giving opportunities to people in those communities, they're not going to be necessarily drivers. We need people that can access through public transport networks, but the residents themselves will be from within Manchester. Hope that answers that.
Kath, can you see any other questions? My chat is blank, so if there's any others.
Amanda asked about we pay the real living wage for apprentices. How would that work?
I think that's it's an interesting one, that Amanda, because I appreciate that as an organisation you might pay the real living wage, and it's I can't, because Athena is going to be employing the individual. We can't put that as a standard across all the contractors that we work with. So conversations are being had with some of the construction companies is that the real living wage is something they're working towards, but I'm not in a position at the moment where they can roll it out. So I don't see it's a bit of a challenge in terms of if you're a real living wage employer, and yet we only pay the living wage for age from the government living wage, but in essence, we're a contractor, so you'll be paying us. And I know as a supply chain for many social housing providers, there's an expectation there that you pay the real living wage or are working towards it. And again, that will be the same take that Athena will have on that. And again, just as if we can get to a place when we can pay the real living wage, and we can get more contractors with host placements that are able to pay that as well, that's the ambition. That's where we want to get to. But at this moment in time, the feedback that we've had is that we just can't enforce that, because I think we'd restrict the placements that become available. So we're just trying to find a happy medium of doing the government's living wage before we actually move in that direction to becoming real living wage employers, and all organisations are real living wage employers. Hope that helps, Amanda.
We've been working on this since April, the three of us, trying to make sure that we get a model that's both robust, user friendly in terms of the participants, people that will be going on it, and also the supply chain, the sponsors. So it has been a difficult journey to get to where we're at, hasn't it? But we feel like this is the best offer that we can get. It's being branded as a pilot because we want to learn from it, you know, and if anybody reflects on this and thinks we've missed something or there's something else we can add in, please do reach out with the contact details. Like Gavin said, he'll put them on when he shares the slides, because it is a working model.
Yep. Thanks. Any more, Kath, in the Q&A? No. Okay, last chance before we head off. Obviously, if there is further questions, or you end the call and think, I didn't ask, I didn't think, or you want some specific, more detail and things, like I said, we'll share everything after the session. I think finally for me, just thank you everyone for attending. I think we've got 20 odd people in the session that are looking at how they can support, which is fantastic. We've got a further one on Monday with a similar number. So the appetite's clearly there. It's how we take it from appetite to sort of the pledges and move forward. So like I said, we'll be in touch with details. Please come back with questions or follow-up conversations, and we'll be in touch around next steps.